Good evening. I want to apologize for the late meeting tonight. So it's Monday, June 5th. I would like to call the Claims Committee meetings to order. Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Councilwoman Jermaine,
Present.
Councilman Paplaskas,
Present.
Councilman Donegan, Councilman Campiano,
Present.
Council Vice President Vargas, Council President Marino.
Present.
Thank you. I would like to ask a motion to approve the minutes of March 6, 2023 and April 3rd, 2023 as a block.
So moved. Second.
Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Councilwoman Jermaine,
Yes.
Council Paplaskas,
Yes.
Councilman Ferry.
Yes.
Councilman Campiano,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
I would like to have a motion to vote on the motion to take the minutes as a block.
So moved.
Second.
Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Councilwoman Jermaine,
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas,
Yes.
Councilman Ferry.
Yes.
Councilman Campiano,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
At this time, we are open for public comment. I would like to have anybody in the audience so have a public comment can come to the podium.
Good evening. My name is Sonia Poydras, 190 Aqueduct Road. I have a claim on the docket for tonight for my retaining wall at my house. So the retaining wall that's holding up my driveway is buckling and failing. It's on the corner of Budlong baseball fields and the basketball court and the pool. So I got a letter from the city that I had to repair it. So I've gone through many lengths to try to take care of this on my own. I've contacted my insurance company. They refused, they denied my claim. I contacted an engineer. I paid $1,400 for plans and I have the plans here and they're in the packet that I submitted. And in amendum to that, he provided a letter saying that the city trees directly behind the wall may be contributing to the failure of the wall. I had a tree company come out who said the same thing. I tried to get the wall fixed on my own. And I hired a contractor and gave him a deposit of $14,000. And I was defrauded and I had to go to the contractor and registration board and licensing committee and had a hearing, and they gave me the judgment that he needs to give me that money back. He wasn't a registered contractor or licensed, so it was illegal for him to do that, and he refused to take any more of my calls. So that's going to the Attorney General's office and they're seeking arrest for that, but I can't get that money back. So I'm just asking if you would consider helping me because of what the engineer said, that the trees behind the wall could be contributing to the failure of the wall. I have several quotes that I've put in here in my packet, and I've continued to try to get contractors. A lot of them don't call me back. They come out, they look at the wall, they tell me they're going to give me a quote and they don't. The ones that I do have quotes from, I went the least expensive and that was the person who defrauded me out of that money. So, but I have to get this done because it's mandated by the city. That's all.
Thank you. We cannot answer your question right now. We go in an executive committee and that's why we're gonna discuss this matter. Any other public comment in the audience? Any public comment on Zoom?
I see no public comment.
At this time, I would like to close public comments and I will ask to go to executive session. Pursuant Rhode Island General Law 42-46-5, a two pertaining to prospective and actual litigation matters as listed on the agenda in the section that follow. Can I have a motion to
moved.
go? Thank you.
Second.
Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Jermaine,
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas,
Yes.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilman Campiano,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
At this time, we're gonna move to executive committee. All right. Good evening. Can we have a motion to return to open session?
So moved.
Madam
Second.
Clerk, please take a roll.
Councilwoman Jermaine,
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas,
Yes.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan. Councilman Campiano.
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Thanks. In executive session, we have vote on many matters, and I would like to have a motion to seal the minutes of the executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Madam Clerk, please get the roll.
Councilwoman Jermaine,
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas,
Yes.
Councilman Ferry.
Yes.
Donegan,
Yes.
Councilman Campiano.
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
At this time, I would call a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Everybody say hi.
All those in favor say aye.
In favor? Oppose? No? Okay, the meeting is adjourned.
Should I just start? No, behind you. Okay, good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the Safety Services and Licenses Committee meeting. Sorry, we are starting late. Today is Monday, June 5th. Madam Clerk, please take a roll.
Councilman Ferry,
Present.
Council Vice President Vargas, Councilwoman Jermaine,
Present.
Councilman Donegan, Councilman Campiano, Councilman Paplaskas,
Present.
Council President Marino.
Present.
I'd like to have a motion to approve the minutes of the May 1st meeting.
Motion to approve.
Madam Clerk, please take a vote.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Jermaine,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan, Councilman Campiano,
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to open up public comment. If there's anyone in council chambers that would like to make public comment on any matters on the docket, please step forward, state your name and address for the record. Okay, anyone on Zoom for public comment?
There is no public comment.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to close public comment. On the agenda is committee matters carried over. I'd like to have a motion at this time that all matters in reference to Spot Bar and Grill be continued until next month.
So moved.
Continue.
Second.
Madam Clerk, please take a vote.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
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 Okay, next on the agenda is a discussion in reference to the Edgewood Laundry. I checked with the attorney for the neighbors in the area. The laundromat has had the study completed. They do not have the results. And the neighbors asked to have this continued until next month. Can I have a motion to continue this to next month?
Second.
Madam Clerk, please take a vote.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Jermaine,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan,
Yes.
Councilman Campiano,
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
Okay, next, we have a holiday sales license renewal for M's Liquor Store. Attorney Videcchia, you wanted to weigh in on this? M's Liquor Store.
Yes. Oh, I just see Attorney Al Magno is walking in. Fortuitous timing, sir.
Good morning.
Or good afternoon, long day.
If you could please state your name and address for the record.
Lawrence Almagno Law, 10 Rangeley Road, Cranston, Rhode Island, for M's Liquors.
Through the chair, so some of you may remember this, you may not. We had a show cause hearing approximately, I want to say 3 months ago, 3 to 4 months ago. And at that time, the reason for the show cause hearing was the result of an undercover operation for compliance checks, which were done by the Cranston Police Department. At that time, it was alleged that on, I think it was 3 occasions, underage sales were made at this particular establishment. So at that time, I believe this gentleman, along with Attorney Almagno, came in and at that time assured the committee that they would take steps to alleviate that problem going forward. And I think one of the remedial steps, and Attorney Almagno can jump in when I'm finished, was to install a card reader to prevent any misunderstandings going forward. And I did speak with Attorney Almagno last week, and he assured me that I believe that this apparatus has been installed. And I left a message for Sergeant Sweeney. I have not heard back from her, but I am more than willing to accept the representations of Attorney Almagno. I have received no other complaints from Sergeant Sweeney. I think I would have heard something had there been a problem. So I'll let Attorney Almagno just maybe expand a little bit on what remedial steps his client has taken. And if they're satisfactory, I'm more than willing to just have this matter passed from the calendar for compliance.
So all employees are tip certified. I even forwarded Attorney Verdecchio a new hire.
Could you speak directly into the microphone, please?
Sure, all employees are tip certified, including even the new hires were tip certified. I forwarded Attorney Verdecchio a copy of that, and the car, sent him a copy of the video used for the card reader. I don't wish to publish it because it's my information that's on the license that pops up, but the machine's in working order, and thwarted an underage person trying to use or trying to come in without an ID the other day, and then tried to send a friend in, but they said, no, you can't just send your friend in, it's for you. Sorry. So the machine is working well. In order to purchase something, you have to have your, passport or driver's license. And it just reads, and on the screen, it pops up your name, your date of birth, your address, pretty, foolproof right there. And your photo too. So doesn't look like you. If it looks like it's, your grandfather or something like that, sorry. They're not making no sales.
Okay, if you wouldn't mind just staying at the podium. Do I have a motion to approve?
Well, to the chair, if I may, I think the appropriate motion at this point would be just a motion to pass it from the calendar for compliance. Unless the committee had some other concerns. I'm satisfied that, and the administration isn't looking to impose any further sanctions. I believe at the time that I'm trying to recall, and I apologize that I can't recall, but I thought there was a brief probationary period that went along with this. Since they're in compliance, the administration is not going to take any further action. I would urge the committee to just entertain a motion just to pass it from the calendar for compliance.
So we don't need to have a motion to renew this?
I thought it was on for show cause.
It was,
As renewal.
This is only a renewal? Then I'm
Sta-
sorry, then I stand corrected. I thought it was on for status.
It says renewal, and then under that, it says for status review.
Okay, then 2 motions. Okay, then there'd be 2 motions. You're absolutely correct. So a motion to pass on the show cause aspect and a vote on the motion to renew the license.
So I need to have 2 motions.
Yes.
Motions,
I'll make a motion to pass on the show cause.
Second,
Madam Clerk, please take a vote.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Jermaine,
yes.
Councilman Donegan, Councilman Campiano,
Yes.
Council Paplaskas.
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
Do I have a motion for the renewal?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on the renewal? No discussion? Oh, Councilwoman Jermaine.
Thank you, Chair. Listen to the Attorney Pepico. He said he's satisfied, so I hope you continue to keep the good work and you will not come here again to some violations. So keep the good work.
Councilman Donegan?
I just want to clarify, my motion is to approve.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions for the applicant? Madam Clerk, please take a vote on the renewal.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Jermaine.
Yes.
Councilman Donegan,
Yes.
Councilman Campiano,
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Next is septage hauler license new. Hockomock Environmental. Is anyone here from Hockomock Environmental? If you could please state your name and address for the record and please tell us about your business.
Jonathan Snell, 225 South Main Street, West Bridgewater, Massachusetts. I'm in the septic pumping business in the Massachusetts area. And I would like to dump at the Cranston wastewater treatment plant.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve?
Second.
Any discussion or questions for the applicant? Councilman Paplaskas.
Thank you. Will you be picking up any waste in the city, doing any work as well?
No, but I'm always open to new markets.
Just wanted to let you know, and it'll probably say it on the back of your license, no waste removal before 7 a.m. for the peace of the neighbors and people that live around the pump that they'll hear in the morning.
I don't usually start before 8 anyways, and I'm an hour away from here, so.
One more question, Chair. What does your name mean?
Hockomock, it's a swamp, actually, in southeastern Massachusetts. It's kind of interesting. It's supposed to be haunted if you look it up.
All right, good to know. Thanks.
Any other discussion or questions for the applicant? Madam Clerk, please take a vote.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Jermaine,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan.
Yes.
Councilman Campiano,
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas.
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
You're all set. Thank you very much. Next on the public hearings, the first item is a secondhand license, new for A Bit of Everything. Is there anyone here from A Bit of Everything? Is there anyone on Zoom from A Bit of Anything?
They're not raising their hand. Perhaps they could ask them to, if they are.
Attorney Videcki, your recommendation here?
If you could do it either way, if you want to continue it because you need to hear from the applicant, you can do that. If you're satisfied with just the application, and you want to approve, you could do that as well. I think it's completely in your discretion how you want to proceed.
Madam Clerk, is everything in order as far as their application goes?
Yes, it seems like they have everything they need.
Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Any discussion from the council? Madam Clerk, please take a vote.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Jermaine,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan,
Yes.
Councilman Campiano.
Yes.
Council Paplaskas,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
Okay, next we have new matters before the council. I'd like to make a notation that items A and B from Diluvium Fireworks LLC have been withdrawn. Okay, next we have septic hauler license new Podgorski Corporation. Is there anyone here from Podgorski Corporation? Please step forward. State your name and address for the record.
Tom Constantine, 8 Springdale Ave, Canton, Mass. CONSTANTIN.
Just please tell us about your business.
Septage and liquid waste. Just wanted to bring it into Cranston.
Okay, please remain there. May I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Any discussion or questions for the applicant from the panel? Councilman Paplaskas,
I assume you heard the discussion with
I
the
did.
last waste hall.
I did.
Okay.
I get it.
are you guys competitors to each other?
I've never heard of them. I've never heard of them, but I do see my competitors coming into Cranston, but I've never heard of them. But that's okay.
After 7 a.m.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Madam Clerk, please take a vote on the new license.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Jermaine,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan,
Yes.
Councilman Campiano,
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas,
Yes,
Council President Marino.
Yes.
You're all set. Thank you very
Thank
much. Good luck. Next, we have a victualling license for Dee's Deli, 1296 Cranston Street. Is there anyone here from Dee's Deli? Please step forward. I'm assuming we have the current owner and the new owner. If you want to state your names and addresses for the record, please.
Timothy Aldridge.
Please step directly into the microphone. Please speak directly into the microphone.
Timothy Aldridge, 72 North Cobble Hill Road, Warwick, Rhode Island.
Robert Blinkhorn, 18 Bakewell Court, Cranston, Rhode Island. Blinkhorn, BLINKHORN.
Or if you want to explain to us exactly what's going on.
I'm turning the license over to my son-in-law, Timmy, for the business.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve?
Second.
Any discussion or questions from the panel? Councilman Paplaskas.
First, I'd like to say I'm glad that the business is staying in the family. Certainly pro-family business here and appreciate that. Second thing is, don't change a thing. It works. It's delicious and everybody likes going there for lunch. So I'll certainly be in
Thank you.
support of the application and wish you many, many years of success like you've been having.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Any other? Councilman Donegan?
Yeah, I'm glad that it's staying in the family. It's the best grinder in Rhode Island, and my wife has already requested it's the first thing she has after she gives birth later this year. She's like, I want a grinder from Dee's Deli right away. So keep doing what you're doing. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Anyone else? It's my 5-year-old grandson's first request when he comes to Rhode Island, that he has to have an Italian grinder from Dee's Deli. Okay, Madam Clerk, please take a vote.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Jermaine,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan,
Yes.
Councilman Campiano, Councilman Paplaskas.
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
Good luck. Thank you. Next is Merlino's Pizza. We still had Department of Health license inspection pending. Is there anyone here from Merlino's Pizza? Please step forward.
Jeff Merlino, 2325 Cranston Street in Cranston.
If you could please explain to us what the status is with the license.
So we're just waiting to set up an appointment, hopefully by the beginning of next week with the Department of Health. I was in contact with them today. We had to install a new hand sink. So that's the one minor thing. They're just going to inspect that and then we should have approval from them.
Did you have a date set that you were trying to open?
We'd like to open before the next hearing of July. That's why we stuck with the meeting tonight. So as soon as we have that sink done and we, do some recipe work, we'd like to be open within 2 to 3 weeks.
Madam Clerk, is that the only item missing on the license?
I have a note that taxes are also due.
Okay, wasn't aware of that, but we can take care of that.
Council, please weigh in.
I had discussions with Attorney Angel on this issue, as well as with the clerk and also with President Marino. And in the interest of consistency and uniformity, we can't grant these conditionally. I suggest that this matter be continued to the next meeting so that everything is in order. It's just too unwieldy and too inconsistent to do it any other way. Unfortunately, that's what we're recommending going forward for any type of license.
Do I have a motion to continue this?
And to continue for next month.
Second,
Any discussion? Councilman Donegan?
Thank you. I guess the only, if hypothetically, because I'm just thinking, because July, what, I'm not sure if it's the 3rd or after the holiday that the next meeting would be, that puts us into the middle of July, if it's after the 4th, after that week. Would it be possible if they have if they get that inspections license from the state in time, would we be able to put this for a 6:30 vote the night we convene for the June meeting? And I know that's up to the clerk and the chair, but to pass along, that way they could get it within that 2 to 3 weeks if they have the requisite paperwork.
What Councilman Donegan is referring to, and this happened last month. We had a business that was 1 day away from getting their health inspection. And on another night, when we were having another meeting, we had a special meeting for safety services just to vote on that one license, which we would try our hardest to do for you too, provided that you would get all this done within a timely manner. But if it's going to take 3 weeks, then we would just continue this to the next meeting.
Understood. I'm hoping to have this done within 5 business days.
Right, so would you keep in touch with the clerk and let her know if everything is completed, and if we would try and put it in before we have another meeting,
Of course.
if we
appreciate
have the
that.
time.
Absolutely.
All righty,
Yep. Thank you.
so motion to, I'm sorry, Council President.
thank you. Just to be clear, to reiterate what the clerk had mentioned, there's 2 items that you need to comply with before we can hear this matter and vote on this. So to Chairman Ferry's point, those items need to be completed if we are going to have a special meeting just to hear your matter. If they're not done in time, then that meeting won't take place and will have to be continued until it is.
Understood. Appreciate that.
The date would be June 26th, and we have to actually advertise that a certain amount of days ahead of time, a week before. So you need to keep in close contact with her if in fact you have everything completed.
Absolutely. Understood.
All right. Madam Clerk, please take a roll on continuing this.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Jermaine,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan,
Yes.
Councilman Campiano, Councilman Paplaskas,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
Next, we have the Macro Bar.
Hi, good evening. My name is Joel. Last name is Vaz, V-A-Z. I am from Pawtucket, Rhode Island, 14 Doron Drive. 14 Doron Drive, Pawtucket, Rhode Island, 02861.
Could you please tell us a little bit about your business?
So the business name is the Macro Bar. As macro suggests, it's carbs, proteins, and carbs. So this Macro Bar is basically, we are having like a smoothie shop, smoothie cafe to be precise. There'll be coffee, smoothie bowls. We are also going to add proteins, but for people who need it. So it is just like the previous business, which was just like a smoothie place and a fresh juice, but we are going to convert it more like a cafe.
And what date did you have set on that you were trying to open for?
So if everything goes well, by the end of this week.
Okay, Attorney Videcchia, could you please step up to the microphone? I just noticed on here, it doesn't say that a vote will be taken on this tonight.
It says it next to the Mr. Chairman.
Victualling license is new, both will be taken, so item number 3 under that.
Sorry about that. Just trying to be extra cautious. Okay, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second,
Any discussion from council or questions for the applicant? Councilman Donegan.
Thank you. What are the hours going to be? Same hours as the previous?
No, so ours is going to be during the week, it's going to be 6 to 5. That's workers' hours, but the operating is going to be 6:30 to 4:30, just to give 30 minutes for the people who come into prep area. And the weekend is 7 to 4. Again, it's going to be 7:30 to 3:30 on the weekend, operating hours.
Good luck. There are houses right, right behind on Flint, so just be mindful at 6:30 if there's any music or anything.
Good.
But looking forward to, I live right around the corner, so
Sure.
looking forward to the YMCA and stopping
Yes,
by.
right, right. Yeah.
thank you, these.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments from council? Council President?
Thanks. Just to be clear, are all the requirements met, Rose, and nothing outstanding?
Yes, he has all requirements.
Great. Good luck. Thanks.
Thank you. I had one question.
Sure.
So we have a little bit of sidewalk for us. It's in the same plaza. So I just wanted to ask, inquire whether if I can put 2 tables outside the establishment, just if somebody gets a dog, I come, man, I just put a dog bowl and somebody can sit with the dog outside. On the sidewalk right in front of our door. If that's okay, if not, it's fine.
Council President?
That's a different application.
Okay.
That is not included tonight, and it's not something that we would
Okay.
handle. Just reach out to the clerk's office and they can guide you through that.
Sure,
Okay?
thank you.
Thanks. Yep.
Before we vote, just please always be mindful of your neighbors,
Yes.
litter, noise, those types of things. Because when things don't go right, we always get called
Yes, definitely.
and then we have to call you in. We don't want to do that.
Yeah.
All
I'll
right.
take care of that.
Any other comments, questions? Madam Clerk, please take a vote.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Woman Jermaine,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan,
Yes.
Councilman Campiano,
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas,
Yes,
Council President Marino.
Yes.
Okay, congratulations.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank
The next item was show cause for M's Liquor, which we already resolved. Next is show cause for the Historic Park Theater, victualling, public entertainment and boxing license. Attorney Videcchia, would you please step forward?
So before we begin, I'd like to proceed in this fashion. So I will introduce some exhibits I have, just a few, just give you an overview of why we're here. I see Major Padalano is here, along with Captain Carnival. And then we will give Mr. Brady and Attorney Birchfield any opportunity they'd like to speak. I just want to get these things into the record and then we can discuss the matter. So first off, I would ask, I've had 3 reports, which I'm going to hand to the clerk, and I would just ask that they be made part of the record. And so the record is clear. The reports are from the following officers: Officer Robert Mayone Jr., Officer Kaylee Cooper, and there's also an attachment from an Officer Brandon Scotty. It's actually a package of, she wrote the report, but there are some attachments there, but I'll refer to it as hers. And then the final one is a narrative for Sergeant Anthony Sassone McHugh. So I'm going to ask that by motion that the committee vote to accept these 3 exhibits on behalf of the administration. I'll just hand them to the clerk.
Do I have a motion?
Motion to accept them into the record?
Any discussion? Councilman Paplaskas?
Thank you, Chair. While I sure the reports are valid and written by the police department, I haven't seen them or read them, so I'm gonna be voting no on accepting them because I haven't seen them.
Any other discussion? Councilwoman Jermaine?
Is it possible we can have those report right now? We know what it means, what is it about exactly?
Well, I think in the interest possibly of saving time, I can call Major Catalano or Captain Carnival. They're familiar with the contents. They are the supervisors. They were the supervisory personnel, and they can certainly testify as to the contents. If we need to go beyond that, then I have no problem. I only have one copy, but we could share it. If it becomes, the committee thinks it's necessary, we could do it that way. I'm just trying to save a little bit of time here.
Councilwoman Jermaine?
Probably I missed that meeting. I don't know. So can we have a little background for the show cause right now?
Yeah, I'm going to do that. I just wanted to get this out of the way. This is more housekeeping. If for whatever reason you don't want to admit them after the presentment, that's certainly your right. But I would ask you to conditionally admit them at this point, pending further testimony.
Okay, can I ask Major Catalano to please come up and explain to us a quick summary of what's in those reports? Please.
So those reports by the officers who responded and who were on detail there the night of, it was actually a boxing event. First of all, let me just preface this by, we didn't submit this show cause. Usually when we take a look at an incident, we'll review it the next morning or even that night. The supervisor on scene, if they feel there's an incident, they'll forward it to us for review. We did take a look at this. This was basically, in a nutshell, it was an isolated incident. There was detail officers on scene. There was private security on scene. Obviously, there was staff from the Park Theater Cinema on scene. At some point, this was a domestic incident. There was people who, it was a family who had some issues with each other and decided to take it upon themselves to cause a disturbance inside the facility during the event. Quite frankly, if they were in a restaurant, this would have happened. If they were in a liquor store, this would have happened. If they were anywhere where they saw each other, this probably would have happened. So in review of this incident and the totality of circumstances, we didn't feel there was any need to bring it forward as a show cause. I was contacted by the city clerk to send the reports over. But this is an isolated incident. It's a family from out of state came in, began assaulting each other. Officers got involved and it led to 3 arrests.
Through the chair, if I could just ask Major Catalano a brief question.
Yes.
So Major, going forward, do you have any recommendations to make to the committee in terms of future exhibitions of this type involving either boxing, MMA? Are you satisfied with, I believe there was only one officer who was working a detail. Do you have any suggestions as to maybe tighten up security a little bit?
If we do, we usually speak to the facility or whoever manages the facility and we'll set that up with them. So we haven't had any pushback or any issues. If there's a need for officers, they're certainly ordered. I will say, on our part, we can't fill every detail. There's several details that go unfilled on a Friday and Saturday night. Garden City, Langs. I mean, those facilities, they order the details, but they don't get them. We just don't. The officers are spread thin right now. Obviously, the last few weeks, it's been busy. We have 10 officers out on administrative leave due to an incident. So we're very, very thin and we're going to be thin for the near future. So we do prioritize, but if we see an incident that needs direct attention, we'll have the officer on beat stop by to give them some added security. So if there's an officer, let's say at Langs on detail, and we know there's a big crowd, the officer on detail will stop by. If there's no one on that detail and we can't fill it, we'll ask the officer on that beat to stop by and make what's called G20, which is a periodic check. So right now, we don't have any recommendations based on what we have, based on the knowledge that we have.
So going forward, if there's another boxing exhibition or MMA, you would be satisfied with the one officer detail or any officers?
We'll check in and see how many people are estimated to come there. If we need to add another one, we will. We've been utilizing 2 officers at each venue. In light of what's been going on lately, we don't want to leave one officer alone at any facility. But in this case, he did have private security.
So through the chair, if I may, let me just say this. So I'm following directions and the show cause issued. But from my position, I know both of these gentlemen and their reputations are beyond reproach. I will say that. I think this is something that was not their fault and it did get out of hand. I just wanted to, I think the concern here was, it was a fairly extensive incident that took place. From what I understand, officers from Providence responded to help out. There were several officers from Cranston went there. So it was just something to bring out to the committee to see if there was anything that could or should be done going forward. But in light of Major Padalano's testimony, I'm satisfied with that. I mean, the administration, on behalf of the administration, we were not seeking any type of sanction or anything of a punitive nature. This was more a information gathering type of proceeding, which we've done before in the past. But I don't think we could just ignore it. So that's the reason for, bringing the people forward. But it's up to the committee how they wish to proceed.
Anyone like to have any discussion? Councilwoman Jermaine.
Okay, when I see show cause hearings, I don't know, I may be, ignorant, but for me, it's look like we have a repeated incident and we call it to have a show cause. That's why I saw it. That's why I understand it. So I would like to know how many repeated incident has happened that require a show cause, or do we have only one incident and we require a show cause? That's my question.
That's really not a decision that I make. It's usually a collective decision. That's usually someone communicates with me, whether it's someone on the committee, whether it's the administration, and I simply follow directions. I don't think there's any set rule. I think it depends on, it's fact dependent. If it's something that had some type of potential adverse public effect, we like to bring the people in. Certainly this doesn't rise to the level of a shooting like we had, 8 months ago. But whenever there is a significant police response to a venue like this, I think some of the committee members are concerned, as is the administration, about just getting to the facts and seeing what happened. But there's no hard set rule. There's no magic number before the show cause is decided upon. It's really at the discretion of the various members of the council, as well as the mayor and the police department.
If I can add some color to that. Factually dependent generally means, under the standard, that there's some nexus between the activity that's occurring on the premises, okay, that the owner of the premises and the participants. In this case, you heard testimony from Major Padalano that this incident would have happened in church had these family members bumped into each other. So it wasn't as if the activity occurring at the Park Theater gave rise to this, right? Like we've seen in other instances. So there's a little bit of common sense in looking at the facts, but there's usually some nexus between, what goes on that the facility is sponsoring as an event, or whether it's a bar or whatever the case may be, and the fracas and the police response. But generally speaking, it's public safety, that alerts the committee and the administration that there's been a significant police response and so forth, so.
Thank you. So why I asked the question, because I'm learning the law. We know the severity and what forces, what kind of procedure that we take step by step when we face with incidents. So that's the reason why I asked. For example, if you have, first offense, or it's a violation, is to have second, and like, so if we have a first one or a second one, we have a show cause, and what would be if we have a second one or a third one? So I think in my understanding, this is look like the first one we have. Is that correct? No? Okay.
No, it's not. I mean, generally speaking, when there's a cumulative, and I won't want to get too far afield, but the cumulative effect of a particular location and business having issues, if you will. Let's just say, for example, we have a restaurant where there's a bar area, and 1 week there's a fight. Then the next week there's a stabbing. Okay, that's not what went on here. It's not as a result of the activity occurring on the premises necessarily. The facts here seem to be that these folks, wherever they would have bumped into each other, would have had an issue. So it wasn't as a result of the event necessarily. At least that's what the facts seem to bear out as I've heard them. But it's not a cumulative effect. It's not a cumulative situation unless you have a particular location where there's a nexus to the activity on the location and the participants involved. We don't have that here. So this really, in theory, it shouldn't count at all.
Thank you for clarifying that for me, because I know a lot of residents really count on these activities. I have many residents in Ward 2 that call me, that I met, that say, hey, my family has so much fun, coming to the park theater. It's that come so lively. And I want to make sure that when they come and they are safe. And that's why the reason why I want to make sure is what is the severity of that. And I wasn't aware. And when I see show cause, and for me, it was like, oh, this is really, really extreme. So thank you for the clarification.
If I could just add, when we review any incident, we try to avoid having to bother the council with any type of incident or any show cause. We usually go to the managers, the facility, whoever runs the facility, and ask them, can you make changes in certain areas? And if they don't agree with us and we feel there's a safety, that's when we will bring it forward. But most of the time we'll approach any facility owner, manager, including Mr. Brady. And if I said to him, you need 10 details, he'd say, put them there. So it's been total cooperation. So there's been no issue on our part. And if we see a need for change, we'll let him know. And he's always been very acceptable to it.
So there is no problem here.
No.
Thank you.
Major, do you have any idea how many details were requested for that night?
There was one for that night and we didn't fill it until probably an hour before.
So there was a request for one. How many,
Yes.
do you know how many people were in attendance at the event?
There was over 500 I knew from the onset. And just so you know, the police chief only has authority and when it's over 500, according to the charter.
Okay, Council,
They did have private security as well. So we weigh that.
Council President?
Sure. Thank you. A couple of things. One is to the motion that's pending in terms of accepting the police report into the record. I think it would still be a good thing for us to do because I assume Major Padalano, through the chair, that police report reflects what you represented, which is that it was a domestic related type of incident that could have occurred regardless of the venue or in which it was at. Is that fair?
Yes.
Okay. Then the other issue that I want to address is precisely the questions that have come up tonight in terms of, how large was it? How many people was it? It's very true, the Park Theater is an asset. There have been no issues to date. People do like going there. And we respect that's isolated incident, but it would be beneficial for everyone if the schedule of events was presented to the clerk so that each month we as a public body know how many people approximately are anticipated at scheduled events, so that it won't be something that's unanswered. I think that would be helpful, going forward too.
Just so you know, we don't want to put out, like, private security is more beneficial for us because they can get down in close. We usually use the police officers to stay at the entrances, and so we want to have them scattered all throughout the crowd. That's something for private security. You don't want 10 police officers all throughout the crowd. The private security is more beneficial to us, and we can leave the officer in certain points where if they need to call, they can call and see from a better vantage point than to put them down in the crowd.
Yeah, and to that point, when it comes to boxing venues, that's the standard, is there has to be private security. You can't rely entirely on the police, and I respect the organizers of the event and the fact that they had it. And I'm sure they'll take it into account, next time going forward too. Yep, thanks.
Obviously, this is a sensitive matter and no one is here to make any accusations or anything. It is our obligation as a council and the Safety Services Committee to address this issue and to make sure we do everything in our power so it doesn't happen again. Otherwise, if we don't do anything and we don't bring this to light and something were to happen, then where would we be? So this is forward because there was a fight that required a large police presence. Everyone I spoke to after it happened agreed with me that we should probably bring this forth to the Safety Services Committee so we can rest assured that everybody is on board and has the same goal to continue having events trouble-free. That's the only reason we're here right now. This is not personal. Nobody's pointing any fingers at anybody. Nobody's blaming anybody. We're just here under obligation to the people of this city and the attendees of your facility to be prudent in making sure that it's a safe thing. And that's the only reason we're here. It's nothing personal. And everyone I spoke to after it happened agreed that we should, in fact, bring this forward. And I thank you for coming here tonight and explaining to us. And I feel personally, if there's going to be 500 people, I think we need to have more than one detail. That's just my personal feeling. I don't know if we have any rules. Councilman Paplaskas.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to reiterate my point that I'm not going to vote to put these on the record. And not because they're public records, somebody can pull them. I really don't agree with the process of this show cause. I did not receive these reports in an email prior, so I could do my due diligence and read them. I was chair of this committee for 4 years, and we always made sure that everybody knew what was going on in regards to reports being sent out. Show causes were done under the request of the police department, which seems to have not happened here. And I rely, me personally, on the public safety experts. I don't believe anybody here on this council is a public safety expert. So Major Padalano, your testimony was satisfactory enough for me, and I won't vote to do anything further with this action because you said it was a domestic that could have happened anywhere, could have happened to Lang's Bolorama. I don't think we'd be sitting here if it happened to Lang's Bolorama. So I will not be voting to do anything further. Thank you.
Councilman Campopiano.
I echo Councilman Paplaskas' point. I'm satisfied that the Park Theater did everything they could. They followed all protocol, and I accept the major's opinion that they did everything right.
Anyone else? Councilwoman Manzulli.
Thank you. I just have a question for the solicitor. In the past, I don't know, at least in the past 2 years that I've been here, and Councilman Paplaskas can speak further, do you recall if there have been show causes that have been initiated without the direct advice of the police?
truthfully, it's been such an informal process. There is no rule, there's no provision that I'm aware of. It's been, in all the years I've been here, extremely informal. I've had show cause requests from members of the council, members of committees, from the police, from the administration. There's no rule.
So to my understanding, we can, or in other municipalities, or what really makes the news, show cause is kind of a big deal. And you have a show cause when there's an allegation that a business broke the law. And then they're summoned to show cause or give reason why their licenses shouldn't be acted upon with a fine or suspension or revocation. And then we're supposed to present evidence to show whether or not there's a violation of the law. I know the letter that went out against the Historic Park Theater was accusing it of breaching the peace, safety, and general welfare of the community. Do we think that that's what this was? Because did they not submit a security plan with the boxing license? Because I know that I'm not on this committee, so I don't vote on that. But when I ran this committee, we approved those things with a security plan. So I would assume that everyone here approved whatever plan they implemented, unless they implemented a different plan. So perhaps rather than bringing forward a community theater without the explicit request of the police and maybe tarnishing their reputation even just a little bit when they contribute to this community so often and so publicly and so positively, could have had they could have come forward to modify their security plan for the next time they have a boxing match. I believe they had asked for 3 occasions of boxing. That this could have been handled in a different way, in my opinion. And I'm not on this committee to vote, but I just think this is very performative and I'm not for it. Thank you.
Council President.
Sure. Solicitor, did you have something to say?
All I wanted to say was that unfortunately, I'm not aware of any other mechanism to bring a licensee before this committee for an inquiry, regardless of whether there's no fault, whether there's fault. Just because they're summoned before the committee does not mean necessarily that sanctions are going to be imposed, punishment is going to be imposed. Depending again on the facts of the given situation, it could just be for informational purposes. And I've done that before, and I'm on the record as saying, you know, we're not looking to punish or sanction. However, it's serious enough that we can't ignore it. As Councilman Ferry said, it's just to bring things out into the open. If this council adopts another rule whereby we can bring people in, licensees in under these circumstances without calling it a show cause, I'm all for it. I'm not familiar with any other process.
Council President.
Yep. Thank you, Chairman Ferry. I just kind of want to bring this back to center and why we're here. The most negative impact on the Park Theater was the news coverage of the fight that broke out and the need for just factually that there was multiple people involved. There were multiple police departments called. This show cause hearing is not the reason for any negative impugning of the Park Theater. And everything everyone has said this evening has been to the contrary. This is our job in representing the public. And I thank Chairman Ferry for bringing this forward through the only mechanism in which we have. And tonight, this evening, we have had the police department set forth the facts, which is that but for the relationship of the parties with no connection to the venue itself, this incident would not have occurred. The police reports, according to the testimony and the statements tonight, are going to support that as well. So once again, I welcome, for the record, for the benefit of the Park Theater as well, that we accept the police reports into the record. We have clarified for the public what the cause was for the actual negative occurrence that took place. And this way we can move the ball forward in a positive way. Thank you.
Attorney Videcchia, we stand to vote on the acceptance of the
Right, that was the
the
last.
three
motion.
letters, the
And if
three
I-
reports.
If I may, I would just like to amend it slightly to also include acceptance of the show cause letter that went out, even though the parties evidently are here, but to clean up, to keep the record clear, the show cause notice should be part of the record as well.
So do I have a motion to accept the three reports and the show cause letter into record?
So moved.
Any discussion? Councilman Donegan.
Thank you. Solicitor, the reports, were they altered in any way or they're as presented by the police?
Well, I can't answer if they're altered. I can only say I've dealt with Major Catalano for the past 5 years and I trust him implicitly. If I receive reports from him, I've relied on these reports ever since I've been here, so.
Those reports are not even redacted. Those are the original reports, just, you know.
Then-
We don't alter reports. Once they're finalized, they're done.
And that's what I was like redacted or whatnot. So with your word, I have no issue accepting that into the record.
Attorney Angel is just going to have the major authenticate that those are the reports that he sent to me via email.
I believe I sent the redacted and unredacted, but you guys, anybody who wants it can come in and request it as a public record. You don't need to get it through the chair.
Okay. Please take a roll on voting to accept the three reports and the letter into record.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Jermaine,
No.
Councilman Donegan,
Yes.
Councilman Campiano,
No.
Councilman Paplaskas.
No,
Council President Marino.
Yes.
Madam Clerk,
Motion failed on a tie vote.
motion failed on a tie vote. Okay, Attorney Videcchia, what's next?
Well, as far as my position, and obviously the final determination is up to the committee, but based on Major Catalano's testimony, the administration, on behalf of the administration, I have no reason now to move forward. I would urge the committee to withdraw the show cause citation, even though it's been made part of the record. I mean, the process itself, in terms of, we're not seeking any sanction, any punishment, no recommendation. It's on record that an event occurred, but beyond that, I have no position. I defer to the committee.
Do I have a motion to defer, to remove the show
Motion to
cause?
remove.
Chair, why don't we hear from Mr. Birchfield and Mr. Brady, just to keep the
Okay.
record complete.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Predictor. Good evening, everyone. So.
Name and address for the
I'm sorry,
record, please.
Jimmy Birchfield Jr., 536 Apples Avenue, Providence, Rhode Island. So appreciate the major's summary of that evening. I understand, Mr. Ferry, that there had been news reports of this being something more than what's been represented this evening. And candidly, that harms not only the Park Theater, but it harms me as a licensee as well, because it's just factually looking. As Major said, this appeared to be a domestic issue that could have happened for anyone. To put your mind at ease, provide you with some comfort. We had 15 private security on leave. That's what we do. We want to run these events as professionally as we possibly can. That's what we've been doing for 30 years. We've also taken whatever recommendations the police department has as far as how many detailed officers. We did have an event earlier this year, and I know there were 2 detailed officers. I'm assuming in this particular situation, there just weren't officers available that particular evening. There weren't 2 available that particular evening. Again, to provide you with some comfort, our security searches everybody that comes in. They get wanded. This isn't our first event. We've been doing this for a long time. I'm embarrassed to be in front of you here this evening. I'm embarrassed for what this has brought to my good friend Eddie Brady. This was just a really unfortunate incident where people were just in the same place at the same time. If there's anything that we can do to provide you with more comfort regarding security, I'm certainly willing to do that. But again, we've been doing this for a long time. We take the recommendations of the police department, and based on the security company that we've used for a long time, we don't want to be here.
Mr. Brady, would you like to speak?
You know, I can't stand here and say that I didn't take this personally. You know, I've served on this committee. I know what goes into government. I'm a passionate man about the city of Cranston. I think some things can be handled privately, what happened versus just listening to a media report from a reporter who hasn't reported anything positive since I can't recall the last time. And then a bunch of other media outlets report off of an initial report you're hearing tonight. Passionate testimony from one of our community leaders from the police department that's saying what's going on. I can't recall when I served any situation personally where the police didn't call a show cause, people from the council did. So it's hard for me to stand here and not take this personally. After being here for over 1.5 years at this theater, most of you have been in the theater, but some of you haven't. And I invited you on numerous occasions. So I'm not sure my testimony will yield anything of a positive result tonight, other than I feel personally attacked. I've been doing this myself for 16 years. I know what I'm doing. I know what a security plan is necessary. He's been doing it for 30. We've taken every recommendation, period, from the police, from this committee, from anyone since the history of doing business. We're an advocate of Cranston. We're trying to keep this place going. It's not easy. It's been here 99 years. No one was stepping forward to take over this theater. I'm not sure if some people on this committee understand what it takes to keep a community theater going. So I'm not sure I'm going to offer any type of testimony tonight, other than the fact that I'm going to continue every single day to put my head down, give it my best effort with the team that's involved to keep this theater alive, to keep it going, to keep dreams alive so kids can enjoy it. No, I think it's an embarrassment for everyone when negative press happens for the city of Cranston, but when we're not questioning the authenticity of the reporting before we're just show causing someone that is given everything they got, you know, I can't say that I'm a little bit disappointed and I'm not a little bit upset. We're going to take any recommendations from this committee to continue to move forward and successfully try to keep these doors open. So thank you for the opportunity to speak. That's all I have to say.
Okay, this is getting personal for me now. Okay, Attorney Videcchia, could you please step up to the podium? Major Padalano, could you please step up to the podium? When I called you about this, what was your recommendation as far as having them come and speak before the council?
I said we would have to do a show cause. It's the only way to get them in front of it.
Major Padalano, when I called you about this, what did you tell me?
You did say you wanted to bring it before the hearing for show cause, so there was no issues, that nobody could say anything.
What did you say?
That's fine.
You said bring them in.
Well, I agreed with you. I didn't say bring him in. I didn't submit anything to say bring him.
This is personal for me right now. I'm doing my job here. Okay? I'm doing my job. I asked 3 people in this room what I should do. And all 3 of them said, bring them in. So that's what I did. So you say it's personal for you. It's personal for me. I'm doing my job. If something worse happened or something happens in the future and we didn't do this right now, we would be sorry. That's all I can say. I'm finished. And I have a motion to remove this from the agenda.
Motion to remove.
No other discussion. Please take a vote, Madam Clerk.
Counselor Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Jermaine,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan, Councilman Campiano,
Yes.
Council Paplaskas,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
No.
Next item. Does the Police Department have any business? No. Fire Department has any business? No. I'd like to have a motion to take block 12 together.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Madam Clerk, please take a vote on taking the block as one
Councilman
vote.
Carey,
Yes.
Councilwoman Jermaine,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan, Councilman Campiano, Councilman Paplaskas,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
I'd like to have a motion to approve the block.
Motion to approve.
Any discussion? Madam Clerk, please take a vote.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Jermaine,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan, Councilman Campiano.
Yes.
Council Paplaskas,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
The next item on the agenda is the monthly schedules. Roads in the Patuxent. Do I have a vote to enter that into the records? A motion to enter that into
So
record.
moved.
Second.
Madam Clerk, please take a vote.
Ferry.
Yes.
Councilwoman Jermaine,
Yes.
Councilman Donegan, Councilman Campiano, Council Paplaskas,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
The next item is the monthly schedule for the Historic Park Theater, and I'd just like to make a note that I was informed by the clerk office that for 2 months they requested the schedule and they never got it. So we need to make sure that in the future, the schedule for the Park Theater is on the agenda and we can see the report. Report for the Cranston Stadium either. And then we have block 14 is just licenses that are admitted, that are administratively. Okay, communications. Garden, GCC Wine and Beer Garden. It's just for informational purposes only. Council President Marino, City Hall parking lot availability concerns related to Park Cinema events.
Thank you. Just this past month, this came up. I received numerous complaints that there was no availability for City Hall employees attempting to park in the parking lot during early morning hours. I was told that there was an event going on across the street at the Park Cinema, and for that reason, there were not as many parking spots available. People had to park, apparently, from what I was told, and I have no reason to disbelieve more than one person telling me this. They had to park multiple, at least 2 blocks from City Hall because there was nothing available. And I just wanted to know from the administration, is there well, 2 things. One is, once again, if we have the list of events from the Park Theater, then we as a city will know in advance when there is an event scheduled and can anticipate there being a parking issue to better service the city employees, not to mention the members of the public that are trying to come to City Hall during those daytime hours. My question to the administration is, do they have any recommendations on any way to maybe help alleviate this issue besides the one that I just mentioned?
Thank you. I was there, there's been one incident that there was a daytime event at the park. I believe it was last week or the week before. Again, one incident. I guess they had a nice trade show, a seminar type thing, a good group. Yes, a number of people did occupy a good portion of the lot. I responded there by 8 o'clock in the morning, spoke to the folks that were on duty, and they immensely apologized that there was a mistake. They were heartfelt apologies for it. And I contacted Major Catalano, and we made the decision to, what we could have done is have those people leave the parking lot disturbing the event, or just make do for the event. And so we decided to accommodate that day and not disrupt the function there, figuring that's valuable. And for the one-off to make sure we suspend any ticketing that may exist potentially to any of our employees. As to going forward, yes, I know the daytime management certainly will be communicating with the administration should there be an event for us to do our best to help accommodate them, notify our employees, and then work with them and possibly suggest the type of, they might want to arrange this type of shuttling service with some parking at the Cranston Stadium or some other way we can accommodate the business and not at the city's cost, but work with them, give an advance notice. But I have to say they were very, very humble and very apologetic for what had happened that one day.
Yep, I appreciate that. No, there's no question. They want to be a good neighbor. And I appreciate the administration and looking forward as to what's going to happen in the future when they have an event. Whether it's maybe even reserving certain number of spots, since we'll know in advance of the event that city employees and the public have some spots available to them and the other measures. But I appreciate the input as to what's going to be happening going forward. Thanks.
Any other discussion on that matter? May I have a motion to adjourn?
I can,
All those in favor?
The Finance Committee will commence at 7:30. At this time, I'd like to call the June Finance Committee to order. Clerk, please take a roll.
Councilman Donegan. Council Vice President Vargas, Councilman Ferry,
Present.
Councilwoman Jermaine,
Present.
Councilman Campiano,
Present.
Councilman Paplaskas,
Present.
Council President Marino.
Present.
Before we take a motion on section 3 approval of minutes, there is a slight change or update in the process for executive session minutes, which I'm going to ask one of the solicitors to detail for us.
Just, it's more of a, it's a housekeeping matter. Prior to approving the minutes, what we're going to do going forth is the clerk is going to prepare copies of the minutes from the prior session before we seal them, because the committee should review them before approving them. That's just common sense. I know it hasn't always been the practice in the past, but going forward, we're going to just tweak that a little bit so that everyone, you know, can review them before they approve them. That's all.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, and he's absolutely right. You should know what you're approving before you seal them. The tricky part of this whole thing is that because they are executive session, it will not become a public document because they'll be sealed. Those who receive it, that the method that they receive it, if it's email, you cannot share that email with anyone. You need to destroy the attachment. It's not even to be discussed among committee members. You make your amendments on the floor, or if necessary, to go back into executive session to do so.
Obviously, if it's a paper type of communication, it needs to be shredded or destroyed.
Thank you, Councilman Paplaskas.
Thank you, Chair. I have a question for either Solicitor Angel or Solicitor Verdecchia. I assume tonight we're going to vote to approve the May 11th executive session meeting minutes. I was not privy to that executive session, nor have I read the minutes. Should I abstain from that vote? Because I wasn't here and I don't know what happened in the executive session.
There's no requirement that you abstain, but if I were not in a meeting and I was being asked to sign off on the meeting minutes, I just think I would abstain from the vote on that particular set.
Thank you.
At this time, we'll entertain a motion on approval of the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
And is that motion to take as a block?
Motion to take as a block.
We have a second on that motion? All right, any discussion? Well, yeah. I'm gonna.
I'll abstain from all of it. It'll pass anyways. If you want to keep it as a block.
That's fine. Any discussion? Councilwoman?
Oh, God.
There were couples of this budget. I wasn't here, but. So my question, I understand so for this, before we start moving forward with the new rules, I think, because we have this already there, and we can move up forward with the new rules, but for now, I think we need to vote on that. That's my point. So I understand, but this is already done. Those minutes, it's the budget. So some of us miss one or two, but we all know the budget and we vote for it. So I think we can vote for that.
Councilman Paplaskas.
Thank you. If you want to vote on the executive session one separate, I'll abstain, but I'll vote for the rest of them, even with the budget, because I did go back through YouTube and watch the meeting, so I'm familiar with what's in them.
I'd like to remove my motion and make a motion to vote on the block with the exception of the May 11th executive session.
Second.
Any discussion on that? Seeing none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Donegan,
Yes.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Jermaine,
Yes.
Councilman Campiano, Councilman Paplaskas,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
I'd like to have a motion to approve the minutes of the May 11th executive session.
So moved.
We have to approve the block.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Trying to move things along.
And it is much appreciated, Councilman. I'll entertain a motion to approve the block.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Motion to approve the minutes of May 11th executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed or abstained?
One abstention.
Let the record reflect Councilman Paplaskas abstained. Believe the ayes have it. Moving on to committee business matters carried over under communications. For me, we had an exploration of liability policy for the city. I know that this was discussed, I believe, in April, and then we kicked it out to June to give adequate time for the finance department to look into this. Director Zadelis.
Mr. Chairman, if I could ask your indulgence for one last 30-day continuance on, it would be greatly appreciated to get you firm quotes.
Thank you.
Motion to continue.
Second.
Believe we need a motion on this. I believe it can just be placed on the docket under my
Okay.
communication.
Thank you. Withdrawn.
And thank you, Director Zadelis. I had an opportunity to discuss the legal vendor report with Solicitor Malay. And he assured me tomorrow morning or thereabouts.
Yes, Councilman, that Chairman, that will be emailed to you as best, first thing in the morning when Ms. Marino is here.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Councilwoman or Council Vice President Vargas is not present this evening due to a work emergency. For the record, I'm going to ask that her inquiry on the comprehensive plan be placed on the July committee docket. And if Director is here. Sorry, I didn't see you before. If you'd like to give an update or if there's anything. I can't force the director to talk. He doesn't.
If I could, Councilman Donegan?
Council President.
Yep. If we could, if the administration has anything they'd like to add for an update on the comprehensive plan account.
Through the chair to the council president, the actual RFP is out on the streets. The responses are due tomorrow by the close of business. So in terms of prospective vendors, suppliers of said service, we should know tomorrow how many bids we received and what the potential cost will be coming from our solicitation.
Thank you.
And I would ask, thank you, if this could be placed back on the docket for next month for an update. Is there any other discussion under that before we move on? Seeing none. All right, we have ordinance 2-2307. Ordinance and amendment of Title III of the Code of the City of Cranston, 2005, entitled Revenue and Finance, Chapter 3.97030, 15-year Economic Development Tax Incentive Program for property located at 661 Park Avenue and 271 Doric Avenue. Tax Stabilization Agreement, sponsored by Councilman Ferry, co-sponsored by Councilwoman Renzulli, continued March 6th, April 3rd, May 11th. Solicitor Malay.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Based on conversations that have occurred today between myself Mr. Mancini, on behalf of the developer, Mr. Verdecchia, Mr. Angel, we're asking that this matter be continued to the July Finance Committee meeting for status, so that we can sit down and discuss certain legal issues that may or may not be present within the ordinance that's been presented to this body. So I'm asking, based on an agreement, that it be continued. Thank you.
Thank you, Solicitor. And just to the party, is that agreeable? Thank you, sir. Is there any discussion before we entertain a motion? Seeing none at this time, we'll entertain a motion to continue to the July Finance Committee meeting.
Motion to continue to July Finance Committee meeting.
Second.
Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none. Clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Donegan,
Yes.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Jermaine,
Yes.
Councilman Campiano, Councilman Paplaskas,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
Moving on, before we move on to new matters before the committee, like to open up for public comment. Are there any members of the public this evening that have any comment on docketed items? Seeing none in person, are there any members of the public online?
I see no public comment.
Thank you. At this time, we're going to close public comment. Moving on to new matters before the committee. There are no new ordinances before us. We do have two resolutions. The first being resolution to participate in the Rhode Island Infrastructure Bank's Community Septic System Loan Program, sponsored by Council President Marino.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Council, any discussion?
No, I just want to thank the administration for work on the necessary requirements so that the city could avail themselves of this program and best serve the public by joining with other cities and towns that do this with the Rhode Island Infrastructure Bank with loans for people who are looking to replace their septic systems. Thanks.
Councilman Paplaskas.
Thank you. First of all, I think this is great. I'm happy that we're doing this, and I want to thank Council President for putting this forward. I know you've been working on it for a long time. I just had one question, and it's really semantics. If a resident borrows money and they default on the payment, is the city responsible? I don't know if I should direct that to the sponsor or.
Yeah, I'll have the administration can, but I do not believe the city is, because we are not loaning the money. We are loaning it through, I believe it's Rhode Island Housing. And in the history of the program, I do not believe that they have had any defaults. That was what was represented to me, but the administration may have had those discussions too, and more recently, so they can address it if that's, yeah.
Through the chair to the, or through the council president and the chair to the councilor, the city will be for all intents and purposes, the borrower of the loan. And getting to the point that the council president made, it's been reported there have not been defaults, but in the event there is a default, what will happen is it's anticipated that a lien will be placed on the property in the amount of the loan. So the recourse would be against the property.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And the city should be a named party on that lien.
Thank you so much for the answer, and I'll be in support of this evening. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Donegan,
Yes.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Jermaine,
Yes.
Councilman Campiano.
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas.
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
Next, we have a resolution supporting, a resolution support for grant funding for CLCF Youth Sports, sponsored by Council President Marino, co-sponsored by Councilman Ferry, Donegan, Campiano, Paplaskas, and Councilwoman Renzulli. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Do we have any discussion? Councilwoman Jermaine.
Thank you, Chairman. I want to thank the sponsor of this resolution. It's a great thing to support youth sport. So I would like to be added as a co-sponsor if it's okay with you.
Is there any discussion, further discussion? Seeing none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Donegan,
Yes.
Councilman Ferry.
Yes.
Council,
Yes.
Yes.
Councilman Paplaskas,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
Next, we have real estate tax abatements.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, clerk, please take a roll.
Councilman Donegan, Councilman Ferry.
Yes.
Councilwoman Jermaine.
Yes.
Councilman Campiano,
Yes.
Council Paplaskas,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
Tax interest waiver approvals.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilman Donegan, Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Jermaine,
Yes.
Councilman Campiano, Councilman Paplaskas,
Yes.
Council President Marino.
Yes.
There are no tax interest waiver denials before us. Lastly, wanted to get an update on school building construction from our school department. At this time, if Mr. Collins would like to come up to the podium.
So thanks for hearing me. Edward Collins, I'm the Director of Facilities. Just a little recap. Back in 2018, 2019, the school department and the city collectively put together a 5-year plan, which consisted of 5 major projects and then a blanket over another 14 buildings. Those numbers totaled up to $147 million, which was put in front of the voters of Cranston, which they approved. Unfortunately, due to the economy, the numbers that we use to budget are just not practical or achievable anymore. So basically, when 2018, 2019, when we were looking at construction per square foot of $450, that's escalated close to 30 to 40%, which brings us more in the range closer to $700. So that's kind of where we are right now. I'm going to run through the projects that we're doing. Please, if there's any questions specifically on those projects, stop me and ask me. Just remember that when I talk about reimbursement, the city's baseline reimbursement is 54%. Some schools will qualify for an extra 15 points, which will bring it up to 69. One school, Gladstone, qualifies for an extra 20, which will bring that reimbursement up to 74. So when I start going through the numbers, you'll see the little difference in that. First is Cranston East. Cranston East, we replaced the roof, the windows, and did interior upgrades in the gym foyer. The roof was constantly leaking, leaking into the inside, damaging the sheetrock on the inside. The cost of that project was a little under $600,000. That project is complete, and we're just in the middle of doing closeout documents right now. The one thing we did find when we went and took some brick down and went to replace the window was never flashed properly, which was a major cause for the leaking that was going on there. So the Cranston East gym foyer roof is complete, and we're just closing that out. Are there any questions on that project? Okay, the next one is Cranston West. Cranston West, we had to do fire alarm upgrades, install a sprinkler system in the auditorium and the gym. We needed to redesign the front foyer to supply a safe and secure entry. If anyone ever went in Cranston West before, you could get buzzed in and travel throughout the building. No one would even know you were there. There was no security in the front. And also part of that was we had to start looking towards replacing the heating system in the building because it's just outdated and it's not functionable anymore. A main part of doing that is changing the service, which meant we had to replace the switch gears on the outside. So that was also part of that project. Sadly, we've been having trouble getting the peripheral devices for the fire alarm system. Hopefully those are coming in. We'll close that out in a month, and we're still waiting for the switch gears to change the service over. That project is 3.7 million. Of that, with the reimbursement, the city will be responsible for 1.1 million for that project. Okay, Garden City. Garden City is pretty much substantially complete. It'll be open for school in 2023. Garden City total price is $54 million. Of the 54 million, 6 million of that was covered by the school department's ESSER fund, which meant that out of the bond, the city was obligated, out of the bond, there was $48.6 million. The city's obligation of the $48.6 million after state reimbursement will be $15 million. So Garden City is pretty much costing the city $15 million at the end of reimbursement. That school we completed, and we started that right in the heart of COVID. That school is getting built for a little over $600 a square foot, which is not even achievable cost right now. So that went very well, and we'll be finishing up. Gladstone, we have a estimated budget we're working with of 83 million. We're still in the process of doing value engineering, and we're also carrying a heavy, larger than normal escalation contingency of close to $8 million. So after we go through the value engineering log and we start getting estimates in, we're pretty comfortable that a lot of that escalation will disappear. We'll be able to bring the building down for 83 million. Of that, that building will take probably a little bit more than 2 years to build. Of that, again, the city's share of that would be 28 million out of the 83. The state would take care of the rest. That building's very challenging because you know the site, there's a 20-foot difference between the top of that site to the bottom, which makes everything extremely difficult. I can tell you I'll be at the purchasing board tomorrow to get approval for the demo and abatement. And that line item is coming in $184,000 under what we budgeted. So that's a pretty good sign as to where the project's moving. The last major project is Eden Park. Eden Park, in 2020, we completed phase 1. It was $10 million. The city got reimbursed 67% of that. Phase 2, which was the gym, the CAF, some ADA work, and the start of some outside work. The price of that was $14 million, of which the city will be accountable for $5 million of that. Due to the escalation in all the projects, we had to go and change the MOA, and we had to move a bunch of money from the other projects into the 3 major ones to complete them. That even being said, we didn't have, we're still, from what the city's gonna go bond for, we're still short some money to do phase 3. So phase 3 was put on hold, which is going to require us to apply for another stage 1 and stage 2 and ask for an escalation. The difference in the funding that's needed is pretty much the 16 million, the difference between the 130 and the original 147 bonding number that was submitted. So that's where we are with the projects. The MOA, we're in the process of changing with RIDE. They've already agreed to approve of the 48 million for Garden City. So the city will get fully reimbursed on the 48 million. And then we're working on Gladstone to get fully reimbursed from that. The new stage 1, stage 2 will request that we get a time extension to complete phase 3 of Eden Park. And it will also have a little, another item in there of Gladstone, and ask for a time extension for that if we run into problems. So that's kind of where we are. How are we doing? And open to any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Collins. Councilman Paplaskas.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Collins, first of all, thank you for all of your work and your diligency and attention to detail. Certainly appreciate it. I actually have 2 questions. One would be to Director Zadelis to confirm the numbers that you gave. And then my second question, and it's, it's actually a true thing. I had a nightmare before that we knocked down Gladstone School and we couldn't afford to put the building back up. So you sure we got the money? Because I know you opened up your statement with the constructions through the roof and we didn't,
If out of the 130 that collectively the city's gonna get, that still leaves 79 million for Gladstone, which means we're kind of running like 2 or 3 or 4 short of that, which I had that discussion with Tom and the mayor the other day on. Part of that money would be brought back in from the extra 16 we're looking for. So phase 3 of Eden Park would probably be 12. You bring in another 4 and that's the 16 million. We're comfortable we're gonna get there. And look, the last thing that we're gonna do is build a school not of a quality condition. The last thing I want to do is build a school and then 5 or 10 years, create a whole huge budget impact for the city because of the changes and the repairs they have to make for that. We're very conscious of that.
thank you. And that's another thing that I've been getting worried about. I see the BOCAP agendas because they get emailed out to us. And I see all the change orders and I get worried that we're going to run over budget. I just want to make sure we have the money to do what the
Yeah,
taxpayers
so-
expect.
Just as far as that, the only project that we've run over the original budget for right now is a little bit on Chris and West. And that was due to some, the fire department coming in and wanting some changes made. Other than that, all the change orders that are incurring at Garden City and Eden Park have all been carried in the original budget with a contingency number. So we have not run over that.
Through the chair to the counselor. In terms of Mr. Collins's recounting of projects, everything he said is accurate. So if I can just cut to the chase, which is Gladstone, the 800-pound elephant in the room or gorilla in the room. Right now, we have a CM at risk contract. As Mr. Collins stated, that the first bid that came out of the gates that is now before BOCAP, which is the demo bid, did in fact come in, I'm gonna round it up 200,000 above the estimate.
Under the.
And I'm sorry, excuse me, I humbly apologize, under budget. Now, that's the first bid package going out. So we've got a long way to go in finding out the administration, the school administration, city finance, school finance to include Mr. Collins work very closely now monitoring the Gladstone. Can I say we're out of the water? No, but until we get all the bid packages, our charge or, and I believe it's the council's charge is to build the schools within the design, within the authorized $130 million. And that's our goal. As Ms. Collins said, there's a escalation amount that Gilbane is carrying, and there's also a contingency that Gilbane is still carrying on their books that with value engineering, it is, I think, the collective hope that those 2 line items that are currently in the Gilbane estimate are not needed, and thus we'll get back to within the $130 million loan order, but we're a ways from that.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you.
What's the timeline again on Gladstone?
And maybe 24 months. But we're going to apply for a new stage 1 and stage 2 because we want to make sure we get a time extension because we really want to find a way to finish Eden Park. But part of also that will be allowing for a little time extension for Gladstone if something goes wrong. So that's kind of where it's like a little blanket underneath everything and preparing for that. Look, to tell you that building a school right now is not a challenge, I'd be lying to you. It's an extreme challenge. Can you afford the material? And can you get it on time? And it's a constant juggling act of doing that. But I mean, if anyone's been by Garden City is a top school. There's no question about it. And we've come in at $600 a square foot. And if you ask anybody building a school in Rhode Island right now, that's an unbelievable number. So we're fortunate to have that, and we're trying to replicate everything like that. But again, we're dealing with economy. The other thing that we have going for us is we have Gilbane. No one has built any more schools than Gilbane in Rhode Island. They're currently building Rogers. We're able to pull off them every little bit or every little square, what did you pay for low voltage square foot? What did you pay for HVAC square foot? They were paying $65. We're up at 70. That's a number we got to address. We're going through this item by item, and we're gauging everybody else's numbers that are coming in. So we have a good feel as to what's going on.
What do you, I'm just gonna ask the question, what do you need from us?
Well, there's the issue of finishing Eden Park. And there's the issue of the difference between the $147 million bond and the 130 the city's gonna get. So there are some funds that somehow, if you want to finish Eden Park, and then that's kind of where that plays into. So that's still like a little bit of a wild card right now, which again is why that project is being, I would say, delayed, right? Delayed on finishing it, and we'll ask for a time extension for that. That's the key right now.
Yes, Director.
So in terms of, I'll call it, and not to confuse it with Mr. Collins's phase 1, phase 2. Phase 3, Eden Park was, I'm gonna use my vernacular, deferred, so that those proceeds could get redirected to Gladstone.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
To keep it within the $130 million bond. So we are collectively working on completing Eden Park 1 and 2 and completing Gladstone within the 130. So that's one task that we're collectively trying to accomplish. The I apologize. That may, to do phase 3, it may require funding in the future. Now, so collectively, we're trying to stay within budget to complete the 5 schools. Independent of that is the ride reimbursement, the MOU, which the schools have been diligently working. We're expecting the increase to come in on Garden City, at which time the school department, with the assistance of Jacobs, will solicit rides approval to raise the Gladstone up to the current level that Mr. Collins was speaking to. So there's a lot of moving parts. We're not there completing these projects within budget or within the parameters of ride in terms of what we'll get reimbursed for, but we are collectively trying to achieve that, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Director. Or any other questions?
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Collins, for the work you're doing. Is it possible we can have, you give us a lot of numbers and it's beautifully done, but is it possible we can share this report with us? All those numbers, so you don't have them on paper?
Absolutely. So we're in the process of getting a new MOA signed. That's gonna come back and it's gonna have to go in front of the school committee to sign. Once that's kind of final, absolutely you will. It will be, it would also be turned into the purchasing board too. And like it was explained, when we went to RIDE was adamant that, look, you're gonna straighten the MOA out for Garden City first. Once we get that to where it is, then you can start working on Gladstone. So we're in the process now. We're gonna start working on Gladstone. Once those numbers come in, everything will be documented for you, yeah.
Okay,
Absolutely.
so from what I understand is we going to have a pause on Eden Park and to start Gladstone. What is it like within the budget that was allocated to
There-
Gladstone or the budget for Eden Park is?
Yep. So when the reality set in that where, everything's up 30 to 40%, there was numerous discussions with City Hall as to how we're gonna proceed here. One of the ideas is, okay, we don't build Gladstone and we finish Eden Park. I don't think anyone thought that was a really good idea at that time. So the other solution was, we're gonna build Gladstone, but we're gonna defer finishing Eden Park and we'll take those funds and move it over. And mathematically, that worked. So collectively, that was the, mayor's direction, everyone included, thought that was the best idea to do that. So right now, yeah, Eden Park is being deferred, held off, pushed off, whatever, but the building does need to be finished. We need to finish the lower wing. There was a footing and a foundation put in for the new library that we're just gonna leave in place. And more importantly, that building was supposed to get turned over. It's still getting heated by oil, a large portion of that building. And part of the thing was turning everything over to natural gas. So right now, we still have to maintain the upper wing with natural gas and still heat the rest of the building with oil. So that's why it's important that at some point the building gets finished.
We have some resident talking about the condition of the park around Eden Park. So is that something that we'll take into consideration, or is that something that will be on pause as well as the phase
Okay,
three?
that's another part that was gonna be pushed on pause. There are some, where I think we're pouring some sidewalks right now. We're gonna clean up the area a lot, but all the landscaping that was supposed to be part of that project is getting pushed to phase three. Yes.
So I heard Director Zizeli, what could be done right now that can help to finish phase three to make it, even?
Money. It's probably $12 million worth to finish it. That's kind of where it is.
$12 million to finish Eden
It's
Park?
12 million. The number where I keep saying is really the 16, and that's the difference between the pay as you go or the early reimbursement is not. That's kind of where we are. It'd be 12 for that and a little bit if Garden City runs a few million over, which, we're confident it's 83, but right now there's 79 left. So there's a little play that needs to happen there now too. That's the big question.
But
as
do
to how-
we do have the reimbursement for phase one and phase two and then Eden Park, right?
Phase one has already been reimbursed and it's a done deal. Phase two will be submitted on this summer along with Garden City, along with Cranston East and Cranston West, all those projects will get reimbursed at a 69% rate.
Could it be possible we inject this reimbursement into phase three?
That would be a question for the people up there, not for me.
Thank you.
To the councilwoman's question, I believe that was asked during during one of the budget committee hearings. Director, do you want to go into, I don't want to misspeak. The question of can we, take the reimbursement for project A to pay for project B?
Through the chair, to the counselor, the short answer is no, because RIDE reimburses you over the course of 20 years of the bond. So in terms of having the cash on hand to push advance Eden Park number 3, no, we do not have, for no better term, an appropriation to sign a contract and pay bills. So the deployment that you're speaking to, taking, that cash flow, which is meant to help us pay the debt service, is not a means that is available to fund a project.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilwoman Renzulli.
Thank you. I know that you have people who write grants, and I know that often grants do not come for buildings. But because I'm involved with grants for my job now, I did come across an opportunity. The Office of Elementary and Secondary Education, Safe and Supportive Schools, National Center on School Infrastructure Assistance. It was just listed a few days ago. So I just want to put that out there in case someone wants to look into it to see if it's applicable.
Yeah, we've received numerous grants for furniture, outside learning space, everything we're incorporating in there. I think what we need to be careful is part of the rationale of not getting the 147 and 130 is the consideration that pay-as-you-go is some type of grant, so the bond got reduced. So the last thing we also want to do is start getting grant money and then that number keeps getting chopped down on us a little bit. So there's a little bit of a back and forth with that. That's you know, also a concern too. But we've, look, everything out there, we're pulling in. Yep. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Yep.
Mr. Balducci, I see that you're here, the superintendent. I know that you're here. Do either of you have anything that you wanted to? Certainly want to give you the opportunity to speak, should you feel inclined.
I think the ultimate question is the difference of 147 million and 130 million. We've talked about this for the better part of a year. It's a matter of opinion. There is nothing that is outlined in any document that is going to tell you that the pay-as-you-go is a grant. Conversely, there is nothing that will tell you pay-as-you-go is not a grant. So it is the opinion of the administration that that is a grant, which means it comes off the total amount that the voters approved in 2020. So as you can tell, that $14 to $16 million makes a critical difference right now. Originally, when we did all of this work back in 2018, that $16 million served as a blanket to cover not only our 5 major projects, but also touch every school in the district for smaller projects, a boiler, again, what we deem as small projects, but are $300,000-$400,000 projects. So that served as a blanket in case of something happening. Once the pandemic hit and our costs just went completely off the rails, now that $14 to $16 million is critical in completing the projects that we originally decided on, the 5 major ones. Quite frankly, Park View is on hold as well. And we had to take that one off the table early on because we just couldn't, you know, after all of this happened, we couldn't afford that. But we looked at Park View as the most recently renovated middle school. So that was our justification for saying, well, we need to look at all of the projects that we had ideally designed back in, again, 2018-19, and then really prioritize what needed to happen. Gladstone has to happen. In my eyes, it is not only important for city infrastructure, I see it as a moral imperative. That school needs to come down and a new one needs to be built for those students. So yes, we compromised in deciding that we needed 13 or 14 million dollars to make Gladstone happen. So unfortunately, Eden Park was sacrificed in the process. So when we look at the pay-as-you-go as an advancement, that was calculated on $147 million. Again, we respectfully disagree with the administration on how that should come as far as financing goes. We've had multiple meetings. We've compromised in coming up with the, you know, Eden Park putting the phase 3 on hold. But for those people in that neighborhood, so now they're looking at a foundation for a library, a school that is like walking into 2 centuries, right? You go to the left, you're in the 1950s. You go here, you're in 2020. So we have to finish that too. And it's not anyone's fault that this happened. I mean, none of us, unless you anticipated the pandemic and, you know, you probably wouldn't be here. You'd be making a lot more money doing something else if you were that fortuitous. But we're trying to make it work within the confines of what we have. I think everyone understands that. I, as a taxpayer, understand that. But at some point, we still have to finish all this. We can't leave Eden Park with a foundation and a third of the building undone. So we're trying to figure out how that works. I have documents that are MOUs from previous agreements, and I have all of that here if you want to just look at the numbers that we're talking about. But as Mr. Collins said, we're trying to work with the Department of Ed. And quite frankly, they've been very accommodating for us. They have freed up money for us to get cash flow back to the city. We have received multiple grants throughout the years for furniture and infrastructure. We've done all that. We've tried to shake the trees for every single dime that we can from the state. But at some point, you know, we all need to kind of understand that it needs to be finished. And that's that swing amount of money. 13 million on the low end, 16 on the high. Okay.
Thank you, Superintendent. Council President.
Thank you. I had a couple of questions. One, with respect to Eden Park and whoever is best situated within the school department to answer this question. I believe Mr. Collins said earlier that with phase 3 being placed on hold, that a new MOA was being submitted to RIDE. And so I just had questions in terms of pointing out the difference between what the cost was planned for originally for phase 3 and if that new MOA is a revised and reduced plan. And I believe Councilwoman Jermaine asked some of that in her questioning. I thought you said it was about 11 million for what was originally proposed for phase 3. So my question is the new MOA the same number or different?
The new MOA only required 2 changes to Garden City and to Gladstone. Eden Park, there was enough funding in there to cover phase 2. Seeing that we're kind of removing phase 3 from that, we don't need the funding for there. So only 2 changes needed to be made on the new MOA, Garden City and Gladstone.
So I misunderstood earlier when I thought I heard you say phase 3 of Eden Park involves a place on hold and requiring a new MOA for Eden Park phase 3.
It would be, but it would be part of the new stage 1 and stage 2 application. So we have, and I know there's a lot going on here.
Yeah.
So the approved stage 1 and 2 is for all those projects, and Eden Park had a number of like 18 million. Because we're deferring phase 3 to a whole nother application, the 18 covers it. It's fine. So again, there's 2 changes that need to be made. One is Garden City, one is Gladstone.
And just again, to just have my facts right, in terms of the outstanding differential, a difference with the remaining amount for the city to bond for the school, the referendum saying 147 million, but the city only utilizing 130, looking at the pay-go as a grant. My question is that 16 or 17 million additional bonding, if it were to be utilized, because there's nothing concretely saying that we can't do that. It's just an option that the administration is making to not utilize it. But my question is that 16 to 17 million, if we were to utilize that in bonding, the return rate, would that be also the 69% return rate that we already received for the first 2 phases of Eden Park?
So you're correct. So if the 16 became available, first of all, then we're very comfortable on finishing Eden Park and Gladstone, and we're good to go. And out of that $16 million, the city's share of that would be approximately 5 million. The state would pick up 9 of it.
Recognize Director Moretti and then.
Thank you. I lost the ball. Just want to give perspective to, I'll say the mayor's perspective. Two critical junctures came across in about the last year and a half. One was about a year ago, I don't remember, but it was really the time to say, to everything everyone just mentioned about escalating costs. It came up with Gladstone, it came to light the financial condition of the city that, the way about 2.5 years ago, the way the city was left in terms of the financial condition. So it kind of all merged together, both hearing where we stood along with these projects. And I'll say this group, Mr. Collins, Superintendent, and Mr. Bolducci, others, I believe representatives from the school committee came to the mayor's office and basically we discussed, do we go ahead with Gladstone? And the mayor wanted Gladstone done. It was a juncture where we're saying, pardon me, could we afford it? And the mayor said yes, and we moved on, but it was really not to exceed the $147 million. $147 million represents the amount of funds that the voters approved in the bond issuance, in the bond referenda going back the last election. But we also knew we're under tight financial constraints, and so to keep it to the 147. Now, defining the 147, we saw legal counsel, so it's not my opinion or the mayor's opinion or the mayor's desire to reduce the project by $17 million. That the language in the bond agreements is that, and actually in the referenda, was that it's 147 million of approvals less any grants, and I'm paraphrasing to say from RIDE or some of the educational institutions. So it is the opinion of our attorneys that pay-go, basically it's a cash advance for the pay used for these schools, is considered a grant, which falls under the definition. And so we are advised that it's 147 minus the cash advance or grant that's considered as pay-go to get it down to 130. So just want to make it clear that it's not that the mayor doesn't want Eden Park done. He wants Eden Park done. He wants it all done, like everyone here. But it's not his subjective judgment. He believes he would be in legal default if we proceed. So with that, the second critical moment was probably a few months ago. The same group kind of reconvened and saying where we stood financially with these projects, similar to a discussion this evening. And it was recognized that Gladstone was going to be questioned because the more money was needed than if we were to complete Eden Park. Basically, as the superintendent indicated, Gladstone needed to be done. Through that discussion and brainstorming, it was actually the mayor's thought when it came to light by Mr. Collins, that Eden Park was to cost the value of the remaining project was similar to the amounts required to fund Gladstone. That's when the thought was decision made to shift the money so we can have basically a big Arlington / Gladstone school was probably more critical to overall the city and its priorities and to the school department. And unfortunately, we couldn't do everything. So I just want to mention that to give perspective to the mayor's end of it. And lastly, yeah, I think in a nutshell, and I'm a finance guy, I like kind of cutting to the chase a little. So we're looking at in terms of a bond authorization, which we believe that will be maxing out. We'll see the way the bids show up actually regarding Gladstone, but I believe right now it's estimated, but it could be $3 or $4 million over, possibly don't know that until the bids come in. Or again, combined and that Eden Park under the bond authorization cannot be done. So that was just the administration's perspective. Appreciate your time.
Council President.
Thank you. There was another area that I wanted to mention relative to the funding and the bonds is Far be it from me to be an expert on this, because I am not, and nor am I going to pretend to be. But the administration and perhaps the finance director can shed some light on this. The issue of issuing the bond being a premium bond, whereas the money that we could borrow would be, higher. Is there an advantage to that, a disadvantage to that? Is there a reason why we are not availing ourselves of that so that we could get more money for what we are putting out to bond, and therefore the remaining balance in question is less of an issue?
Through the chair, to the council president, when you issue a bond premium, the holders of the bond recoup that in the form of higher interest rates. So the question, there's multiple questions, in terms of a bond premium to fund this. We would be paying more in interest. So the project costs, to include the repayment of principal and interest, both go up. Now, I will say that the projections that were done, when the projects were originally proposed, if you all remember what it was, the interest rate environment was when these all came forth, the interest rate that you were paying on a 20-year, 30-year bond, 2 or 3%. Now we're in the 5s. So without, doing analysis, we will pay more in the form of interest with a bond premium, which makes it more difficult to get down to net debt service that's manageable. They're also, depending on which lawyer you may speak to, a lot of bond attorneys look at that as circumventing issuing a bond premium, circumventing the will of the voters. How you phrase, we're going to go out and borrow $147 million less the 17 million. So the intent of the referendum ballot can be questioned. So not being a bond attorney, I've read the referendum that was placed. It's pretty clear that we said that we were going to go out and borrow 130 million or whatever the pay-go amount was for these, umpteen projects.
And then the other question I have is, while I understand the reimbursement rate comes to us at those high percentages, and my understanding, I want confirmation is factually being done, is that when we are being reimbursed by RIDE for these projects, that money is going directly towards the borrowing and not going somewhere else. And I just want to make sure that is in fact happening.
Through the chair to the council president, you'll see that when prospective budgets are coming out, because you'll see that reimbursement coming to us in the form of housing aid, the increase. The debt service will be the actual debt service that we'll be paying, but we'll be able to tie it back budgetarily. And if we have to, give you supplemental documents beyond what the budget currently, entails. But yes, it's to get to a net debt service. But the problem is, on the reimbursement comes in the form of revenue, not a net expense. So we can produce schedules. One other thing, if I just may elaborate, Madam Council President, in the calculation of the reimbursement from RIDE, they will take that 17 million. So where Mr. Collins says, school X is 74%. In the reimbursement calculation from RIDE, they will reduce that percentage of the reimbursement by what they've already given us. So just so we're all clear, I'm going to try to be as to the point, we'll go out and issue bonds. The RIDE calculation nets out that original pay-go when they do their calculation back to us for that 20-year period. So that's already, for no better term, baked into the funding formula for their reimbursement. So I just want to put that out there right now, and it's going to be a number behind the scenes, which includes RIDE's calculation of what they've already given us through the PAYGO. So I hope I answered that as clear as mud, Madam Council President. But it's as Mr. Collins says, there's a lot of moving arithmetic equations going on here.
And just to be clear, but it is the intention of the administration to put that money back towards the bond, correct?
Through the chair, it's a funding source to pay the bond, so we have to, in effect, only fund the net debt service going forward, Madam Council President.
Can I just to jump on that? So in the past, what would happen is we would have to wait till the project was complete to submit for reimbursement, right? So what RIDE decided, because a lot of communities was, they were like, look, we're gonna give you some reimbursement up front. So really, it's just a different way to reimburse the project. So where there's some starter fees that we could get rolling, or the communities could get rolling, and that's why pay-as-you-go was created. It's just a way to get communities what they normally had to wait for earlier to kind of get the ball rolling.
Councilwoman Jermaine.
Thank you. I come back to that question again. It's like we start with, if that's what I feel. But do we have a timeline when, for example, for Eden Park, when we could get this going? How long this building, unfinished building, will stay there in the community? Do we have an idea? And also, listening to the administration is like, we cannot issue a new bond, so that's not up the table. So I feel like something has to be done, but where do we start?
I agree. We're gonna get an extension from RIDE to finish Eden Park. Then the question is all about when the funding is gonna be there. So I'd have to throw that back as another question. We can finish the school when the funding's there.
How long the extension, like?
You know what? We're gonna ask for like a few years. I'm not sure what they're gonna allow, because normally they tell you have 5 years to complete the project.
So does that mean the building will stand there in the community with the park not finished like for 5 years?
No, meaning like the 5 years is up in 2025. Legitimately, if money was no option, everything should be finished in 2025. What we're gonna go in and say is we'd like to see another year or two on top of that.
As the election coming up, can we put a new bond, the administration for, because from what I heard is like we put the amount we request, we cannot go over that. Can we put a new one? Is that a possibility?
Through the chair to the counselor, if I may, before a new bond would have a financial effect, can I ask you to amend that? Can we get a report back to you? What's the financial effect of another, and if I can just say, a $20 million bond? Because my first hurdle is to make sure we have adequate funding for the first 130. So I can't tell you right now, without doing it, what's the effect on the city's finances of your request of 20 million or whatever that number is. We can get you an analysis of what's the dollar value, so we can make a educated opinion on when do we do it, when do we do it.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Are there any further questions or comments this evening? Thank you for your time, for the information. Thank you, Director Zadelis, as well as members of the committee. is this something, do we want to do this monthly, quarterly? What?
I'll come here anytime. I'm back to purchasing, probably twice a month. If you feel there's a need for me to come here. All right, if you feel there's a need for me to come here, absolutely, I'll be here. You just let the superintendent know, and I have no problem. Yes, I'll be here. So if it's beneficial for you to receive monthly reports, every other month reports, whatever the committee decides is fine.
I would say at the minimum, let's do September. If that,
Yep, I'm sorry. I have one other question I was gonna ask, and I am because it's gonna bother me. In terms of the construction, the work that you've done, like you said, I believe with respect to the library, the footing, there was some concrete work that's done. For example, I know if you put a foundation in, but that's different, it's exposed and you get all the proper permitting, but you don't build the house, that foundation doesn't last forever, right? And so my question to you is the investments that you've already made relevant to phase 3, construction wise, are any portion of those or anything you want to comment on going to be put into jeopardy if we don't make the financial investments and close up on phase 3 improvements sooner rather than later?
Well, as far as the footing and the foundation for the library, we're gonna fill it with crushed stone, weatherproof it, so there won't be any hazard there and everything. Eventually, after a year or two, we might run into a problem. Also, all the, construction steel, rebar and everything that was, purchased for phase 3 now got moved over to Parkview and we're storing it there. Eventually, steel corrodes, but the corrosion really doesn't ruin the integrity of it. It's a form of protection to it, but at some point it becomes an issue. Yes.
Thank you.
thank you. Seeing no further comments at
Chair.
this.
I have one item. We need to schedule the meeting for July and need to get a consensus from the committee. What date works for everyone?
Is that something, do we want to do that now on the,
Well, I've attempted to do it through email and it wasn't successful.
all right, so it's not on the docket. I'm gonna call for an adjournment. No one's leaving. We're gonna get this meeting scheduled before we leave. Okay?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Thank you. All right, so we are adjourned. The July meeting would typically be